Jules. You're back for more.
Thank
We're
you for having
moving.
me again.
You bet. I'm so excited. We were talking about indulging wisely for the holidays last time, which I hope if any of you haven't listened to that you go back and listen to the great tips that Jules shared with us on how to, have fun, but still maintain a level of health through this season. But you are here today to get a little bit deeper. And since you and I both are sort of midway, right, through life in the 50-year mark, we share this, and I'm sure a lot of people listening. The midlife crisis kind of hits you, right? The midlife mayhem. And what is this really about? And could it be a potential doorway to something deeper? And we're going to get into this today. So, Jules, I would love to start you off with you work with people all the time about their health and the body. And what do what's your experience with that? Especially, I know when you work with older people, what do you find that people struggle with as the body begins to age?
Well, I can speak about what I've experienced. What I've experienced? It is we'll probably go here, but the thing that just popped in my head, Lindsay, when you were giving your introduction is like I remember my mom and even my grandma saying, I don't feel different.
Mm,
Like I look very different when I look in the mirror, but I don't feel different. And I think that that might be like maybe alluding to where we're going to go in this conversation. But I just wanted to see that because I think that's an interesting phenomenon. Like I can remember being 12 and writing in my journal, and I was having the same like ruminations, the same thoughts about like what's out there, like the bigger purpose of life, like what is this all for? And when I was 12, and I'm still doing that today. Like so anyway,
right.
that's what popped in my head. But what is happening? I mean, I think for a lot of women when they hit their 40s, their 50s, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I can't remember who I'm talking to. I can't remember what I'm saying. I'm in the middle of a sentence and I'm like, what? Wait, I just totally lost my train of thought. And it's not like I remember having sort of gaps in my thought process and I'd be able to like find the place in my brain and pull on a thread. Whereas, as soon as I hit my mid 40s, it was like I couldn't find the thread. It was just like lights out in that
Ah,
department. I couldn't like, put the pieces together
yeah.
to form the thought. So, the body is aging. I mean, we can't avoid aging. It is part of nature. It's part of life. So, the gray hairs start popping out, all of a sudden the wrinkles, the chin,
The
like what's
jowls.
happening at the jawline?
Oh, I know. This sagging situation right here. Yeah. The jowls.
What is that? Yeah, the jowls, the arm tone. It's like, where did that go? The belly fat. Some women, myself included, had robust digestion, then all of a sudden it like comes to a screeching halt, and now
Hmm.
constipation is an issue, and then the hot flashes. It's like I have a picture of myself at dinner where I have my sweatshirt around my neck. Like my arm, I have a tank top on and my arms are out because it's
Yeah.
like you're burning up 1 minute and then you're freezing the
Freezing.
next minute. So I wouldn't like even take the sweatshirt off. I just let it hang around my neck so that I could put my arms back through it. So
The
it is a
layers. Mhm.
roller coaster ride, to be sure.
Yeah.
And it's very disorienting. And what used to work, whether that's with, food and exercise, doesn't work anymore. Like, if you were
Mm,
someone who could like move the needle, lose 5 pounds just because you wanted to, all of a sudden it's like, no, it actually is going in the opposite direction. I'm
right.
gaining 5, 10 pounds and I'm not doing anything different.
Yeah. Oh, that's a common thing, right? It's a lot of people get that, and men and women both, all of a sudden, you could eat whatever you wanted, and now anything you eat, and you're packing on the pounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it
Mhm.
starts to make you feel like, ugh, it's kind of depressing, right? Because you feel it heavy in the body and the mind gets so involved with that. It's like almost like, why is this happening? And what is happening? Why is that? The body's just deteriorating, it seems.
Well, certainly there's the hormonal fluctuations. I mean, without a doubt, especially in the female body and the male, right? And both the hormones are fluctuating. Your body, in the female body, we're not making estrogen, and there's a estrogen receptor site on every single cell in the body. And there's no doubt that like every single part of a woman's body is being affected by the decrease and loss of estrogen.
Hmm.
So that is it's real, and it's a reorganization. There's a bunch of research about what's happening to a woman's brain during menopause, and that's really been my area of focus personally. It's been like, I have a history in my family of Alzheimer's, so that's always on my radar. When I start having gaps in my memory, I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
uh-oh, here we go. It's
Who are you?
starting early.
Yeah, you're like, Lindsay, who are you? Who am I talking to?
Yeah, exactly. Wait, who are you? What are we here for?
What show am I
Oh,
on? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No.
And even my mom, she'll be like, "Oh, no, you're just overwhelmed. It's just like you're
Mm,
just stressed. You have just too much going on." And I do think that that is part of it for women. And I also think it's like these symptoms are a call,
yeah.
a wake up call, a call to consider that maybe there is something else going on beyond
Yeah.
the physical.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's not to discredit the physical at all. Like
No.
we should find, healthcare professionals or acupuncturists or Chinese medicine doctors or functional medicine doctors, like whatever road you want to go down to help with the physical. I think it's really important to get the support, and it's not to discredit that. And it's also to recognize that there is potentially there's a deeper solution or a deeper call to
Hmm.
seek a different type of solution.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to get into that as we keep going here. But I want to touch on, let's talk about this because women, as they age, we go through menopause, like you said, you lose an estrogen. And there has been this huge industry around menopause, right? And I get it. Women that need help, you need help. But it seems like it becomes a pathology, like it's a disease. You have a problem with a very normal, natural thing that happens in life. We don't have this happen when we get our period. There's not some industry behind that for young girls. It's only when we lose our period. It's this massive industry. But men don't get that. Where's
Mhm.
that? You see the midlife crisis, the guy who's older, he's got a lot of money, he's got a super hot sports car, and the young woman sitting next to him.
Yeah, yeah, and
No,
he's celebrated because he went
he's
through his midlife crisis.
we
Yeah,
don't get that. I
right.
know. Yeah, and I know men go through their thing too. I'm not discounting or trashing men at all, but I just think it's interesting how the industry takes it and women are like, they're making money on us big time through this whole thing that is very normal. And rightfully so we don't have kids when we're 90. You know,
Well,
like
thank God. I mean, I will say
yeah.
that the reason I celebrated going through menopause was because I knew I couldn't get pregnant anymore. And mind you, I had had a C-section with my menopause baby that, I couldn't get pregnant anyway. But still,
Yeah,
there's that feeling of liberation when you go through menopause that you're like, oh my God, I can't get pregnant anymore. Like I
right.
personally, you probably too, you have 4 kids. You're like, sweet, I
It's the
can't
best
happen.
feeling when you know you can't. Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah. I mean, you want to talk
Yeah.
about your menopause baby, Jules? Tell the
Oh, my
listeners,
menopause
Jules.
baby.
Yeah,
Well, so yeah, I guess I brought it up. So,
you
one
did.
of the things that I think is fascinating is I think it's important to highlight women's menopause stories, and that's something that I want to do more of
Hmm.
because I think there's probably no two transitions, if you will, that they have similarities, but they're all very unique in and of their own like right. And I think again, it's an opportunity to shed some light on it, to celebrate it, to celebrate what's possible and what is possible in like post menopause, because I
Mm,
think that's really an important thing too. But I started my menopause journey at 38 years old, which was
yeah.
early, but it was also very similar to what happened with my mom. So it's considered on the early side to be in perimenopause, but still within the normal range. But anyway, of course, like many people, I ran to the doctor. I was like, what is going on? I have no
Yeah.
energy. My cycle's coming and going. I've always been textbook. This is so bizarre. And she checked my thyroid because that's always like the first thing that they check. My thyroid was fine and ended up putting me on testosterone, which fine. Got a little energy back, got a little more of my sex drive back, and boom, guess what? I got pregnant.
And there I was. And how
And
old were
here we
you?
are.
Well, how old were you when you were pregnant with
Well,
your
so
third?
I had Dax when I was 42.
Okay.
And, of course, the medical establishment treated me like I was a geriatric because that's what they call it, geriatric pregnancy.
Jules, they treated me like that when I was 32, pregnant with the twins. They termed me like, well, you're at risk because you're 32. I'm like, women today, and there's a lot of women having babies older today. They're
Yes.
40, like a lot of people are having their first at 40. I'm
Yep.
like 32. I'm not that old. That was my
Well,
third.
and can we look at like our biological age versus, yeah, like the biological age is a thing now too, versus, the actual number, right? Where like we have both had lived very healthy lifestyles. We eat right, exercise, tend to our, emotional life. So like biologically speaking, I didn't feel 42. I felt I had a completely, I mean, I had a very healthy pregnancy despite having some complications.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I ended up having my youngest at 42 and then breastfed for a couple years and then basically had another mini bleed and went right into menopause. And
Wow.
so it's pretty bizarre. So,
Kind of
but
lucky.
it was kind of also like there was this blend of like post pregnancy
Mm,
or postpartum with menopause. I mean, I still had symptoms, right? I still had the hot flashes and the like I said, the brain stuff was really intense where I was just like lacked motivation, rage would come out of nowhere,
mm.
like all of a sudden I couldn't put up with certain situations anymore. And
Yeah.
you hear that this is like what's happening. Again, women's brains are changing. Um, it's no surprise that divorce rates skyrocket between age 40 and 55, mostly being initiated by women
Yeah.
because women are just like, enough. This is
Right.
not working for me anymore. And acknowledging the fact that there's a real biological and chemical change is important. It's like foundational. And also, like I said, there's something, also deeper being called for.
Right. There is something deeper going on there. And not everyone has kids, right? But typically women, if you've been married a long time and you've had children, it's like right when the kids too are grown up that you see a lot of people get divorced, right? Kids are out of the house and the marriage ends too, which is
Yeah, or
interesting.
kids are going through their own puberty,
Yeah.
right? And like they meet the parents, like we're having kids a little bit later. And
Mm.
so I know several people who are going through menopause right as their, sons are hitting their testosterone is like really bolstering. And you're just like, there's just like this hormonal, cocktail
Disaster.
and disaster.
It
It's
is.
pretty wild.
In the house, it can be an absolute disaster emotionally. Yeah. Isn't that funny? Now, do you really think that the hormones, and I know they blame everything on hormones, and I get it, but is that really the only thing going on here? Or are we just using that? Oh, just it's my menopause. That's why I'm unhappy. But
You're right.
let's get deeper with it. Like, what's really going on? I mean, are we just at a phase in life where we're tired of everything? Like, you just kind of get to that point. When I see older people that are really like grumpy or that they just don't have patience anymore, it's because they're so over it.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I
they
think
don't
there's
care what anybody thinks anymore.
they don't care, and I kind of love it. I look at
Mhm.
that and laugh a little bit. It's like, oh, there they go. There goes grandma. She's gonna go
Yeah.
off. I mean,
Well, I mean, again, this is like painting the picture of what is available in midlife when you no longer are 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 tied to caring what other people think about you. I mean, I think for women, for me, certainly, like that has been woven through so much of my life, like
Mm,
being a people pleaser, accommodating, being easy breezy, going with the flow to make sure that everybody is, has their
right.
needs met. I mean,
Hmm.
it's almost baked into women's DNA,
Oh yeah, the
so then
nurturer. Hmm.
yeah, so when we get liberated from that, a lot of people don't like it, right? And it's a little unnerving even for ourselves. We're like, "Woo, where did that mean
Yeah.
streak come from? I didn't know I had that in me."
Well, I didn't.
Um,
That's so funny. Did you notice that you were short-tempered with your kids and your husband? I mean, how was that?
I mean, certainly at times, yeah, where all of a sudden, like I said, like the rage would come out. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard of this story where, this woman throws a frying pan across the kitchen to, towards her husband. And you're just like, oops, I actually
Sorry.
didn't mean that, but the impulse just like took over.
She's been picturing that for years, and she finally
Yeah.
was like, "Here we go."
But what is really happening? I mean, I'll put this question back to you. I think about it as, if thoughts create form, then the way we think about things is what we bring about. And so, from a physical perspective, I like to reframe, the symptoms in terms of like, yes, you're having a hot flash. And one of my friends told me about this just epic bleed that she has. She gets her period now, and it is just like
Mm.
she, in her words, a crime scene,
Oh wow.
which
Yeah.
is,
Hmm. Heavy
again,
bleeding.
alarming, not fun. You don't want to celebrate in that moment when you've got like, a mess like that.
No.
And how can we like, uh, can we look at those symptoms as the body's detox? The body is detoxing
Oh
things
yeah.
that it no longer needs, like a purification and a letting go. That is like, again, kind of going a layer deeper. It's not
Right.
just that we're losing our hormones, but that there is a burning away, there is a letting go, there is a purification.
There
And
is.
what's on the other side of that?
Well, that's something I I experienced at a very young age, you know.
That was
But
not menopause. To be
it's
clear,
ne
I remember you telling me some about your symptoms. I was like, is
oh,
she going through menopause?
people would say that. Oh, is it hormonal? And then I'm having four kids in in that period. No, I'm not going through menopause. I'm still haven't gone through full menopause. I'm like the person who'll probably kick out twins when I'm, 60. It's like,
God
not
help us.
happening, by the way. That is not happening. It's interesting because the entire medical establishment is really telling us, right? I mean, subtly, that symptoms are a problem and the
Mhm.
symptom is signifying some problem. And so we think that anytime there's a symptom, oh my God, what are we doing? Calling the doctor.
I was
I'm
like,
not
they have
saying
the
that,
solution.
right, right, because that's the way that the whole medical community operates. And yes, there can be problems with that. But is it something deeper? Is the body just simply detoxifying and therefore it creates a symptom when it's sloughing off something that it no longer needs? And
Right,
that's what we're
right.
getting at.
Yeah, it's like right. It's like you have a fever. Do you have to medicate a fever? You
No,
actually don't. And
no.
most doctors, traditional doctors or conventional doctors are coming around to the fact that it's okay to let a fever burn.
Oh yeah,
Maybe not to the higher ends,
right. For
for
days on
long
end.
periods,
Yeah.
yeah, days
Hmm.
on end, but it's actually good for the body to let, to let it do what it's meant to do. And
Oh yeah.
I think the fever can be, the way we treat a fever. Do you medicate it right away or do you kind of wait and see?
Well, there's
And I
a
think that's a
reason.
great way to approach menopause. Actually, like if you can't sleep for days and days on end, that's going to cause a lot of havoc,
Oh yeah.
and you might need to get some support,
Yeah.
right? But like, can you also ride the waves and see, if
Yeah.
it can be managed through diet and exercise? And I know for me firsthand, my clients also that, you know, you if you're eating sugar and processed food and, fried food and fast foods and um, alcohol, caffeine, it makes all the symptoms way
Hmm.
worse.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that also, that's not necessarily our first line of defense, although I'm suggesting that it is,
Yeah.
right? That rather
Right.
than running to, the pharmaceutical solution, that we actually look at diet and lifestyle. And that's being spoken a lot more now,
Yeah.
but that's pretty new.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like you're saying, through menopause and the heat that happens, there's a massive purification with heat. I mean, there's a heat that literally is burning away things that you don't need anymore in the body. And having a little heat is okay. Like maybe the whole, ending of your cycle is actually a huge purification to clear yourself for what is possible next in your life, which is making way for new things in your life. You could look at it symbolically, right? It's a whole new life after that, right? For many people, it's a total, like, second half of life could be completely different than your first half for many people.
That's right. Well, and you had that experience. I don't know if you want to touch upon that here. I know you've talked about it on the show, but
Oh, yeah.
you did have a massive
Purification.
relationship with heat for a
I
while.
did. Yeah, I haven't talked too much about it on the show, but I will. There was this unbelievable heat that would come into me. This is after my initial experience that started with a huge energy surge through my spine and up into my head. That started a massive 20-year, unraveling. Let's just, for anybody that hasn't heard the story, that's the gist, okay? But after that moment, that surge up the spine, I started having a lot of physical, very strange symptoms, if you will, throughout my whole body that were very alarming, like buzzing and tingling all over my head. And when prickling and things start happening on your head, you really start panicking. It's like, what's going on in there? It feels like someone's doing surgery in my brain, and nothing would ever show up. I was in and out of the doctor, but heat was this major thing. And on the initial surge, it started with heat too. There was this volcanic eruption of fire that was beyond hot. And you and I taught yoga in a hot room, right? It was 105 degrees in there. So that was nothing new to me. Being in a hot area, it wasn't like anything new. This was like, oh my God, I was like, what is happening? There is something burning me from the inside out. So this would happen. It would just come on. Like I'd be anywhere and this heat would just blow up. I was like 27 years old, at the time. And yeah, that you said, well, were you going through menopause? I'm like, no, this heat was like otherworldly heat is what it felt like. Like if I
Yeah.
could say that there's a spiritual heat, I would say that there's something from that realm coming in and burning through. It just felt like that. And I had
Yeah.
no say in it. I had no, sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night just blazing. And then it would just instantly go away. As fast as it came in, it would go out.
Were
It
you
was
physically sweating? Like, was it causing your body to
not always.
produce sweat?
Not
Okay.
always, no.
Yeah.
But I would take my temperature sometimes because I
You
would
would.
just, oh yeah, I checked
And
it
what would that read?
97.8.
Normal. Yeah.
Normal, which was weird.
Actually cooler than most
I know,
people.
I was running cold. Yeah, I do run colder, always have. But yeah, it was the weirdest thing because it's like a phenomenon that your mind cannot wrap it just never could figure it out. Eventually it faded, but looking back on it, it was a period of several years that it would happen. And I was going through a lot of lots of stuff was coming out of my body, lots of trips to the bathroom after the heat would come in. And I noticed a pattern. So eventually I noticed a pattern, and my husband, Franco, would always say to me, and, somebody was speaking through him, I swear to this day, he'd go, Linz, there's a pattern. There has to be a pattern. You just need to watch it, right? And I would be like, there's no pattern. It's just random.
Yeah.
I
I'm
didn't
in
want to.
hell.
I
I'm
didn't want to
literally
listen.
in hell. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just didn't want to listen that there could be a pattern, but I did start noticing there was a pattern. And then through the whole process, I started noticing, oh, there's always a signal. There's something's happening and it's patterned. So yeah, the heat is intense for anybody listening who has hot flashes or gets heat in their life. There's a purification happening there.
Well, and you're saying you had trips to the bathroom. So as
Yep.
someone who does a lot of, talk around detox, you're having epic bowel movements.
Yeah.
Like, is that
And
what you're
urine,
speaking of?
both
And
urine
urine.
and bowels. In fact, you want to hear a funny story? So there's one time, this is probably one of the last times I entered a restaurant and I said, I'm not doing it anymore for a period of time. I eat at restaurants now, but this is during this process. I went to an event with my husband. It was for his business. Okay. It was like Christmas time. And we go to this restaurant with his, all the people he works with. I am sitting at this table, okay, and it is packed in this restaurant. And out of nowhere, I get what feels like if Cupid took its arrow and shot it into my left, almost like the heart center, okay, piercing through me. Shoo, like it just went boom right through me, okay? And instantly, and I'm sitting there amongst all these people trying to
Hi, I'm
smile.
Lindsay.
Hi. Yeah.
Franco's wife.
And meanwhile, I'm like, what the hell was that? Okay. So it goes through me and I instantly heat up. And I thought, oh, here we go. And I told Frank, I need to go to the bathroom. Yeah. And I proceed to go eliminate the bowels, just eliminated instantly, just cleaned me out within a second after that.
Wow.
And I was in the bathroom going, what the hell is happening? I'm so uncomfortable in this environment, dealing with all this and then trying to put on a face that everything's cool when it wasn't, you know. Later I found out that the lady I was sitting next to had just suffered a miscarriage. And then I had wondered, because it came into my heart center, if I was experiencing like taking on her heart pain, her emotional
Mm,
distraught. Then I thought, well, there's the pattern. Look for the patterns because I was taking on energy. It was very energetic.
interesting.
Yeah. So things like that, it sounds crazy, right? Like it's just the craziest thing. But I just learned to kind of start listening, observing instead of taking on and becoming the fearful, panicked person, and that
It's
was,
exactly what I think that illustrates what we can do in midlife.
yes.
When these symptoms are coming on, can we look for the patterns and start listening?
Yep.
Because I do think that the invitation is for women to step into a deeper knowing of their immense power. And I
Yeah.
think that most centuries, for centuries and centuries, we have been told to dim our light, to not tap into that power. You were for sure, Lindsay, going to be burned at the stake
Oh,
for what you're talking about.
I'm
Like,
sure there's been many burnings in the
I'm
past.
sure, but this is the thing that women were burned at the stake because they had some power. They had
Mhm.
some magic. They were tapping into other realms.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is what is available when we are no longer, when our energy isn't being directed towards um, our reproduction,
Right.
reproductivity
Yeah.
to fertility, we're still creative beings. That
Yeah.
creative force is going to go somewhere, right? So if you
Right.
can imagine the purification, the burning, the burning away the symptoms through this menopausal journey and process as letting go of something old to birth something new, that starts to get really exciting.
Right.
Like no longer am I lacking motivation or focus. Now I'm like leaning in, like, oh wait, what's possible? I
Yeah.
can learn to read energy or channel energy or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah. I think you're leaning to something that probably was available in like tribal settings. I look at this like a rite of passage in midlife. I'm sure it was celebrated and ceremonial kind of a thing. But another thing that could be leading us toward too is the elders of society or the elders of the tribe are the wise ones, right? They're the ones that are going to be there to help nurture the grandkids and their children that are going through that really rough time. So it's almost like it's that ticket into wisdom that you're the
Mhm.
wisdom keepers, of the community, right? But what do we do with our elderly today? We put them in nursing homes and they're completely cut off from their families, from their wisdom is being cut off, at least in America. I know there's some countries that do not do that, but we do it here. It's like, mom, I'm just going to check you into the nursing home because,
Yeah.
and there's, sometimes the physical part is so hard to take care of. I understand it, but is that what's happening in midlife? Are we stepping into the wisdom of, and connection to the spiritual and being there for the generations beneath us?
Right. I think that's actually a really important thing. I mean, yeah, society values the youth. We value beauty, like
Mm.
and nature is supporting us to, to sort of flaunt our and our essence and our beauty and our ability to reproduce and like, oh,
Oh
look
yeah.
at me, like come over here because we
Goddess.
can.
I know.
Like there it's not to discredit like I love being young and the youthful. Like
Yeah.
like we all do. We all like can reminisce about that and in some ways grieve that there's a loss of, beauty in some ways. But
Vitality and beauty. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, vitality is but I actually think that vitality is something different. I think like radiance and
Mm.
vitality comes from the inside,
Inside. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And instead, like, so our society tells us, like, you better go get some, filler,
Oh
some
yeah.
Botox, some,
Lift
color
it
your
up.
hair, put on some makeup, like, and then there's this, and then there's the flip side of that, which is like, people are like, well, screw all that. I'm going against all that. I'm going gray. I'm not wearing makeup. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna not wear a bra. I'm showing up fully me. And I'm good with both,
Yeah.
honestly. And I also think, like, as a culture, there's a reckoning that is about to happen, which is that the wise woman, that we make space for the wise woman, that we
Yeah.
make space for the elder and the like elderly versus the word elder. That's very different. Like
Yeah.
elderly, you think very derogatory, like
It does. It sounds like a hit on
versus
it.
elder.
Yeah.
Like the elders are like the wise people, like you said.
Like you're elevating the elder sounds like you're elevating the person as opposed to, oh, the elderly, like they're crumbling, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, it's even in the word, right? We don't
Yeah.
use People don't use the word, let's go visit our elders. Like we don't say that in our
No.
culture, right? It's
No.
like it's more like let's go see the old folks.
Well, my kids call my mom, they don't say this to her face, but they refer to her as Yoda.
I
Because,
love that. She
yeah,
is Yoda.
she's so Yoda. My mom is
Oh,
like the most stable human you'll ever meet. You know, she's never takes on anybody else's stuff ever. And one thing that I think is so wonderful about that, she's taught me, if you're talking about the elders, is to in order to be there for somebody else, you cannot take it on personally. You know, you can't be of service to someone else if you are taking it on and becoming and making it personal and getting emotional. It's just you can't do it. So she's
yeah.
amazing at that. So they love to call her Yoda. She's gonna laugh when
Well,
she hears that.
your mom is amazing, and she is, I like to like think about examples of people to draw on, and your mom has always been that. She's always been sort of this like wise presence
Always. Yeah.
right by your side through it all.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like a lot of women that they forget to look to role models,
Mm-hmm.
either women who have gone before them as mentors, and
Yeah.
then women who are, say in their 60s or 70s, to actually understand that their value, what they have to offer
Oh
women in
yeah.
their 50s and 40s is needed.
It is.
We need it. Like
Oh, we
maybe you
do.
need to have Deb on. Maybe you need
You
to do
know,
an
it's
interview
so
with Deb.
funny. It's so funny you say that, Jules, because I had a vision this morning as I'm laying in bed, and I have a vision that I'm interviewing her and Franco, both, I was thinking about the support system that people need when you're going through a crisis, right? It's always wonderful to have those people that are rocks that are going to be there for you. If you don't have them, then you got to find a therapist, you got to find a trained somebody that can help you. But I thought it's
Mhm.
such, that's something I don't think about a lot when I'm doing the show, but the support network around you is so important in life. And as we're talking about now, the elders, they can be that for our entire culture. I mean, I think that's
Absolutely.
what used to happen in the tribal situation, which is what I keep going back to all the time is how things used to probably be, and they're just not that way in this modern era.
Yeah, and how do we bring it back? How do we create space? I mean, it's obviously it starts by having conversations like this, but have you given that any thought of like how do we, because I imagine like a circle of women, like sharing stories and yeah, just like there's so much
Well,
wisdom to be shared. And
yeah.
healing happens in community, like you're saying, like we need our rocks. We
Well,
need
I
community.
the biggest problem we face is the distracted social media, the phone, all the stuff is in the way, and people are getting so attached to just scrolling and looking for information as opposed to, yeah, like getting in touch with your local community, the people that live right next door to you. You know, it's like they've found a way for us to disconnect from each other. And we
Mhm.
have to just not let that happen. Now, I'm not saying that those things can't be useful. I think they are. The fact that I can sit and talk to you, and look at your face is amazing. I love it. I love technology for that reason. But I think it's important to, like, where's the balance, and can we use the technology they're providing and create these, spaces and communities online? 100%. You can do both. You can do it physically, you can do it online. And there's a lot of that happening all over the place. There's plenty of people that are trying to unite again. I think that most people today are completely missing the human connection, just
Well,
we're yearning for it. We're just not, like we used to be. We used to hang out together.
yeah. Well, yeah, I was just thinking like of just, people in the neighborhood. Like I'm sure the lady across the street who lives by herself would love an invitation to tea. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you want to come over for tea? I mean, I love talking to my it's Digger's aunt actually, and she's in her 80s and she is a whippersnapper. She is so bright and the stories that she has to share
Yeah,
are it's so interesting to me, you
it
know?
is. The storytelling, that's
And it's
something
so
that,
good for them too. Like it's a
yeah.
two-way street.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think storytelling is something that we don't really do as a culture, but I know it was huge. You sit around the fire and you're the elders telling these stories.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
there's an art form in that too, right? It's
Yeah.
very symbolic and beautiful in so many ways. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's such an interesting thing to me. How can we look at these crisis panic moments? And it's mostly, and we've talked off, air on this, but that what is the real fear going on? Because we're all really attached to the body. We don't realize it until it starts to cry. So it starts to scream at us. We go, uh-oh. And it's like we know that we're closer to our demise physically. I don't want to say that in the true sense of the word, but the physical body's demise than we are our birth. And so
Hmm.
there's the panic starting to go, oh my God, I'm 50. What's the average age today that they say at the CDC? I don't know. It's not very old. I want to 70 something. They
I
say the
don't
average
know what it is. I
lifespan.
know that it's gone down.
Yeah, it's lower.
Yeah, it has
But
gone down.
you start thinking of doing the math. It's like, well, man, I don't have a lot of time left.
Yeah, and how fast did the last 20 years go by?
Oh my
Really?
gosh, so
Yeah.
fast. Yeah. So I think that's what hits people, right? This demise coming, the mortality of the body. So how can we reframe it and shift it and see what we just are talking about here is this invitation to the spiritual part of who we are, that we really are, as a preparation for leaving the body that no one talks about. We're all going to do it. And it's like this, elephant in the room that no one wants to discuss, this transition out of body into spirit, right? But we can do that while we're in body. We can start now. So that process is not, it's probably nothing to the person that is truly connected. What do
Well,
you think
it's
about that?
interesting because when we're in our younger years, you're going to college, you're getting the degree, you're, securing a partner, like you're on this quest, right? To like
Right.
check all the boxes. And then you gotta have the kids, and then you gotta have your career, and then you gotta pause your career, and then you gotta go back to your career. And then, like you do all these things, you get the house and you go on the vacations, and then I think people wake up around 50, 55, and they're like, wait a second, I checked all the boxes and I still
Mm-hmm.
don't feel great. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel
Something.
satisfied. I'm like, is this it?
So,
I did all those things. I was supposed to like, deliver lasting happiness and joy. And guess what? It doesn't.
right. It's
Right. So
something's missing.
then you start to look around and you're like, well, okay, so if I checked all the boxes of what it was, like a good life, I have my health, I have my family, I have all these, um, what else is there? And I think that, I'll put the question back to you of like, what is the deeper thing for us to consider here?
Yeah.
what is available. I think about like, my parents slowing down, and I can think about this for myself too, of like, there's this boredom. And in a lot of ways, I'm like, some days I think that'll never happen. I have so many, like, I have a desire to sit and study and read and
Yeah.
meditate and like do all these, spiritually inclined things. But
Yeah.
then I can also see the other perspective where you're like, really, am I going to start puzzling? Like, is that going to be interesting to me?
Am
So
I
my
going to be
mom does.
gaming?
But actually, it kind of is it's really relaxing.
Yeah,
It's a total like shift into a different way of being.
it is.
So,
Well, you're talking about being as opposed to doing. You know, the great doer, the ego loves to do. What am I going to do? Do.
right.
And you're talking about, and what I think a lot of older people realize is they've done it all and it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean anything. And you said something earlier in our chat. You said you realize it doesn't work. The body doesn't work, but it's deeper. What you realize is that nothing here works. It doesn't in duality, right? We're in the dual world where it's constantly changing. It's an unstable place. This is not stability. And what you're asking is we're looking for stability, right? We're seeking stability that we can never find here. So it's a little bit of a catch 22 because you think you're going to find it here in the form of things, and it's not possible. So knowing that is very helpful because then everything becomes so much lighter in what you're doing because it doesn't matter what you're doing. The form starts to take less precedent in your life. You don't care as much because the meaningful side of things is underneath the form, the mystical element, the realm that's available. And when I say that, I mean, I feel that, like physically. The intangible nature of everything under the form is alive. And that's what you're talking about. And so I could do anything. Like, is your mom, is she gaming? She's getting older. Well,
No,
my
she's just
mom reads
puzzles.
puzzles. My mom reads all the time,
Yeah, so
constant.
does my dad.
Yeah, and reading, and my dad plays golf, like that, and it's routine. You notice the routine is just, but underneath it, they're completely happy,
Hmm.
like they love doing what they're doing. And I think there's beauty in that. It's like, wow, to just do whatever and be happy no matter what you're doing. I'm watering the plants. I'm connecting. I'm chopping vegetables in the kitchen and I'm connecting. It's so
Hmm.
simple, but it's the mind, yeah, that's wanting the things. And like you said, you realize eventually the things, the to-do lists and the checklists that we have to have all the stuff, eventually you wake up one morning and go, none of this is meaningful to me. It's not what I'm looking for. I'm missing something.
Right.
And it's the gateway. That's that when if you're asking that question, you're on the right track. You're asking for something deeper. And the essence that is within us is there. It's already there. All it is us paying attention to it. It's where's your attention?
Yeah.
That's
When
all.
you say you feel it, I think you're alluding to you feel the essence of
Mm-hmm.
being. And maybe
Yes.
that's not exactly. Tell us more about that.
Okay. So let me give you a before and after. So before
Hmm.
I felt boundless is a good word, limitless. I felt very grounded and solid in a body. And
Hmm.
I felt the body as a solid, separate form. I
Hmm.
felt so grounded in the body before I had this major life change, right? So for me, what was so alarming, if anybody's having a crisis or a new experience in life, it's very alarming because now you're feeling something. For me, I felt as if I was expanding beyond the physical body, which is a very strange, surreal experience to have when
Yeah.
you've been so attached, I'll use that word, to feeling solid and separate. I didn't
Hmm.
feel movement move through me ever. So the first time I ever had a movement shoot through me, it was like my alarm clock, the alarm bells were like, holy shit, what is that? Do, 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 do. I mean, I was like laser focused on that because I'd never had anything like that before.
Hmm.
It was so obvious. It wasn't like for me personally, it was a major obvious thing. It wasn't subtle. And so that, because it was so overwhelming, it got my attention. And I was laser focused on it for so many years. And then over time, it just transitioned and pulled me out of feeling separate. I don't feel separate from anything physically. And it's like moving through a body that I'm looking at you seeing. I sometimes check in and go, okay, there's my face. you know, I'm not kidding. I'll look in the mirror and go, who is that thing? Like I don't relate to the myself physically like I used to. And it's strange because in the process, the personality self is still the same. It just runs on autopilot.
Yeah, it's
And
that stage. It's the actress on the stage,
it's
right?
this automatic mechanism that we all have that to me never changes. The way that I communicate in this life, in this body, is this is how it's happening.
Hmm.
But behind the scene, right, as I'm speaking, I feel I'm extending all over. So sometimes I have to, and if it gets really intense, sometimes depending on the amount of energy or the frequency, the heightened amount of, frequency you can feel, I have to check in with the body.
You
Oh,
have to
I
be
don't
like,
feel, yep, I start squeezing my hands. I
hmm.
always have things. I got my things around, have a sip of water, you know, squeeze my fists down here. Okay, I'm in, the body's there, even though I don't always feel it the same way. So it is a major learning curve. That's what I would say. It wasn't like, oh, suddenly I'm boundless and everything's amazing. That's not what happened to me. It was trying to make sense of it, trying to get comfortable in it because it was so new. It was just totally different. Totally.
What you're illustrating is like the idea that we need practical tools, whether we're having that experience. I feel like I'm actually someone, Lindsay, who I am not super grounded in the body. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you've like thought about the distinction where I'm constantly like I don't relate to the body as much. There are people who
Yeah.
they like have to exercise every single day
Yeah.
because it makes them feel so good. I feel like they're really connected to their body. And then
Yeah.
there's like personality profile types where you're more mind centered.
Yeah.
And that's where I relate. Like I'm always up in my head. And
Yeah.
I think the antidote to both are having these practical tools.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is like, self-care.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's as simple as feeling your feet on the earth, taking a drink of water, or drinking actually a lot of water,
Yeah.
right? And
Oh,
like
yeah.
connecting to the physical plane to ground it, to ground
Yeah.
the experience, and to know that, well, you're here now.
Right.
And also, you can hold the awareness that there is something
Yes.
larger at
There is.
play. There's,
It's becoming the bridge. It's like
uh-huh.
I felt like I was becoming a bridge, and I had all of myself in the ethereal side for so many years. And I didn't and physically could not operate in the stimulating world. That's how bad it was. So for me, it was like, okay, how do I'm so out there. How do I come back now? And and this is kind of something I think that happens in the process of spiritual awakening in general, is you leave and you go into this complete, mysticism almost,
Mhm.
and you can get really out there. And you might think that's it, right? Oh, it's out there. Then there's this whole other side of pulling it back in, and now you're living again. And it's such a new experience in the world again. It's like you did a circle. You just you went out and now you come back in, and now you're integrating it all as you
Yeah.
move through life. As sound as it's almost like you're more sound than before, even though you don't feel the same. There's a
Yeah.
different physical feeling to it. Yeah.
Which is similar to life in the
Hmm.
sense that like, you go through your youth, and then as you enter this midlife, and then, midlife and beyond, you have the opportunity to um, like you said, be more, do less, but
Yeah.
explore that spiritual side of your nature, which maybe was an interest before, but that you didn't have time for, or that,
Yeah.
you couldn't really devote yourself to.
Right.
And that is like, that is a circle. Like if you think about people who are dying or spent time, I know you've spent time with people who are
Yeah.
dying and
Hmm.
what that process is like,
Yeah.
where the ego, you're very childlike again, right? There's like this innocence
Yeah.
oftentimes with playfulness. And also, I guess it could be it can be harder for some people as
Some
well.
people, yeah, some people are angry about it,
Yeah,
especially if you're terminally ill at a young age, that some
right.
people are not happy about that. I think that the deeper opening here is with any crisis, and we're talking midlife, it's like, are you going to use that as an opportunity, right, to get deeper in your life? And this doesn't matter what you do. You could still be the doer the rest of your life. It doesn't matter. Like, do whatever you want to do. But
Yeah.
can you do it and then feel that connection underneath that you're, and if you don't know how to do it, then you ask. This is when you start building a relationship with your own spirit around you, the presence around you, your guidance, your team, whatever term you want to call it. You start asking, hey, show me some ways to get in touch. Show me what to do next. And you'd be surprised what comes into your, just as you're going around town, you might see something and sparks your interest, or,
Yeah.
the communication can come in so many ways. There's not set in stone. You could do it any way you want. Like, that's what I love to say, because there's a lot of people out there that want to just, no, it has to be a certain way. I'm like, no, it is so your way, however you want to do it.
Yeah, or you think, like I probably fall into the trap thinking like I can't reach that level of access to spirit or the divine or my guides unless I go on a 10-day
I
retreat.
know. Yeah. That, well,
Like
that,
I must leave my environment. It's too familiar. I have to change my subconscious program, and therefore I must escape. It's not true.
it's not
But
true.
again, you talk about another myth.
It is a myth. It's fun. I mean,
Yeah,
hey, go on a
there's no
retreat.
problem with it. Yeah.
If you can afford it and you like to do that, and that's what you need to get yourself into that space, go for it. I think eventually, though, if you're somebody who does that, you will realize one day that the retreat is you. Like,
Hmm.
I'm the retreat. And
Hmm.
the retreat, I'm not meaning my identity. I mean that there's a retreat, a spiritual retreat sitting in me,
Yes.
and you can
Yeah.
access it anywhere. You could be freaking out on your kids with your menopause situation, screaming at them that is, you're tired of their crap, and still go, oh, the retreat, it's right here. I don't have
Yeah.
to freak out. And
That's
I think it's
beautiful.
important to always remember the choice we have. That we have choice on how we do this. And,
Hmm.
like, is midlife going to take you and you're going to be miserable the rest of your life, get really attached to your body, and get upset about every little ailment, right? Every little thing that happens to it? Or is it a cue to say, you're not your body?
Right.
It keeps like, how could I be we know the body's going to die. I mean, we know
Yeah.
it. So why can't we just use the time to get in touch with who we really are? And then it's a transitional process as we leave the body. It doesn't have to be so alarming. And not only that, alarming to everyone around us, because we never talk about it.
Right. 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 Yeah. Aging will happen. How we age is another question entirely. And it's not just, I think of the idea of aging gracefully, less about appearance, although I think that, your outer appearance is reflected by your inner state. But it
Yeah.
is, what I think what you're hinting towards is like, it's a surrender, not like, okay, life, you won, you got
Right.
me. I'm gonna have wiry, eyebrows and chin hairs and, look like the Wicked Witch of the West. It's not that type of surrender. It's like a spiritual surrender. It's like
Yeah.
it's a reckoning. It's a
Yes.
coming home.
Yeah.
That again, that makes me want to lean in. Like,
Yeah. It
what
gets like,
else is happening?
yeah, it becomes kind of exciting. It's, you feel lighter. Even if the body is doing its thing, it's like there is a lightness. I mean, even people who struggle with illness, if they're really spiritually connected, you can see the glistening eyes.
Mhm.
You can see the spark in there, even if the body is deteriorating.
Mhm.
I mean, you see pictures of really old people, right? And they look like they've got to be pushing 110, like
Mhm.
lots of wrinkles, but the glistening eye, I'm immediately like, this person has had a life and it's so
Mhm.
gorgeous. Like I find it quite beautiful, you know. I don't particularly like seeing myself starting to get it. I need to now integrate, you know, but even like when I look in the mirror and I say, I don't know who that person is, as it ages too, I still do that. It's like, oh, and then, but then there's this part of me that starts to see the face disappear in the mirror. You know, you start going beyond, you know, you start going beyond the body. It's like the weirdest thing. If you stare at
I
your
can
face,
imagine that your listeners, if they're like me, they're going to be looking in the mirror going, okay, show me.
have
I
you ever
see
stared
what
at?
I see, but I'm
Yeah.
not disappearing in the mirror.
Yeah. I've had moments where it's like a fading of the physical and it's like you're entering, it's a strange thing, but
Yeah, I
it's
can
kind of,
imagine.
it's interesting. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, I have to
Yeah.
say, you said funny thing about getting like chin hairs. My
Hmm.
daughter Layla, she got me into like face shaving. She like shaves her face all the time. That's like the coolest tool, by the
Yeah,
way.
the fuzz, you get the
Yeah.
fuzz off. Yeah, that
And
is
she's
very
like,
cool.
Mom, you have to shave your face. I'm like, what? Since when are women shaving their face? I did not know this was a thing like until a few years ago. And she is young. She was like 16 when she started it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you don't have any facial hair
Yeah.
at all. But these young girls and their regimen is like next level in terms of they have no idea what's coming with the aging, by the way.
Right, exactly. Well, enjoy it,
I
ladies, because you're
know.
beautiful and
You're
you're glistening
beautiful.
and you've got tight, taut
I,
skin and
I know.
it is a thing to celebrate. Equally as, you know, as I want to just start to celebrate menopause, like, you know, it's like or celebrate midlife. And, you know, when my parents turned 40 and 50, and I don't know if your parents did this, they, you know, over the hill was a big
Yes,
thing and
that
like
was a thing. Yep.
black, you know, and they, but what I like about that, and we don't do that anymore, what I like about it was there was a sense of humor. You
Yes.
know, it like there was a subtlety underneath it, I think that I judged like, well, that's so negative. And, you know, it's like black. I'm not dying, you know, like 50 is the new 40 and blah, blah, blah. But like in some ways there was the sense of humor there that I think maybe we are
Oh
lacking.
my
And that
God.
you remind me of that all the time too. Like, can we just lighten up a little bit and like see the humor in the fact that like, you know,
A
this is what
hundred.
the body is doing.
Right. It's so, and not only laughing, but it just, you feel lighter when you're laughing.
Hmm.
You just do it. It really raises your energy field up. You know, I
Hmm.
mean, it's so true. The boomers are I love the boomers because they're honest. They tell it like it is. You know, my dad is like delivering it straight talk. It's just straight talk. There's no beating around the bush. I know what he's thinking, you know. And I
Hmm.
feel like that is definitely not acceptable today. You know,
Yeah.
that even our generation was a little bit like that. Gen X is a little more, you know, it's I always call it the lost generation. No one talks about Gen X, but
Hmm.
it's always focused on, yeah, everything's so negative. You can't say those things, but don't put so much emphasis on negative and positive. It's just a word, okay? Like if you get too attached to the meaning of everything, then it's a mess. It's a whole mess. I'm
And
like,
it's just a moment.
it's
Like
a
you talk
moment.
about not being permanent. It's not permanent. Just because I say this now, yeah, it's a moment.
Yeah, everything could be a lot lighter. That's why I do, as you know, I love to bring humor to the show. And even through crisis, anybody who's in the middle of midlife crisis and it's really hitting you hard, or you're in menopause and it sucks and you're not doing well, you know, go watch a comedy flick, you know, watch something funny or listen to a good comedian. You know, it really does lift your spirits or turn on some music, lighten the mood. You know, there's things you can do to shift how you feel pretty quickly, you know.
Yeah, and getting into community, you know, like finding people who are in that experiencing a similar change who are approaching it with the same sort of energy that you also want to approach it with. You
Yeah,
know, like you want to get support with your physical symptoms and also be initiated or invited into a deeper conversation, which is
right.
like, this is a time where you get to reinvent yourself. I mean, that is the definition of the midlife crisis, right? Where people are like, okay, that chapter is over. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to go do this. And
Yeah.
we somewhat judge people for having their quote midlife crisis, but um, maybe that's just right on time. It's like, you know what? Time is is an illusion, but also limited, right?
Yeah,
In that
right.
why not go live the life that you want to live and do the
Yeah.
thing that you want to do
Well, and it's
while you're
supposed to
here?
happen. Whatever is
Yeah.
happening is supposed to happen because it's happening. You stop the resistance of it. It's like just accept where you are, and it could be a beautiful celebration into something new. And that might be a place for us to, sign off today and leave the listeners with is it doesn't have to be such a horrible time because I think that we make it heavy. It doesn't have to be, and you have the power to shift it. So before we leave, Jules, is there anything you want to leave people with to think about as we kind of went through a whole thing here with the body and the detaching from it, getting into the spiritual? Anything you want to share? And then after that, tell us where we can find you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, I'll go back to that our thoughts create form, and we have the ability to change the way we think about things. And the way when we change the way we think about things, the things we think about change, to
Change,
quote
yeah.
our favorite Wayne Dyer. And I think that's really important during this time of transition.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what I hope to, offer and to share a little bit more about, that this can be really a time of renewal and celebration and reimagining what's possible for the second half of life.
Yeah.
So with that, yeah, I'm sure you'll link up everything. My
I
website
will.
is
Yep.
justjewelsnutrition.com. I'm supporting women through this life transition as a holistic health coach. And then I'm on, Instagram and LinkedIn and all the things. So thank you for
Awesome.
having me.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. I loved having this two-part series. Anybody who didn't hear the last episode with Jules was about indulging wisely through the holidays. Go check that out. And thank you so much. I loved having you here.
Good to be with you, Lindsay. Take care.